Hey guys, it's me again. Sorry it's been a while. I haven't really been able to find time to upload a video because there's always someone in my house and I don't like them over listening, stuff like this. This video is going to be about PTSD and complex PTSD, which is a relatively new term. So don't feel bad if you don't know what that is, because I'm going to explain it. Alright, so PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, and that usually happens when it results from when a person experiences a short-lived trauma. Sorry. For example, a car accident, like a bad one, rape. And usually people get raped like just one time in their lives. Although they can be unlucky like me and have it done 4 times. Sorry. It can also come from, let's see, natural disasters. Let's see. And like symptoms in PTSD basically is kind of reliving the trauma, going into dissociated states, and dissociation basically, let me see if I can explain this in a way that makes sense. I've had dissociative symptoms since I was around 19-ish. And it's basically when you it's kind of like major spacing out. It's like you don't really feel like anything around you is really like real or kind of happening. It's basically like being like intensely spaced out, and it can last anywhere from a couple minutes to hours, and it is not fun. The main reason I started getting on ADD medications was to help the dissociative symptoms. So it helps with that. Just in case anyone's watching and has that problem of chronic dissociative states, try getting on like Strattera. What are the other ones? Like the ones that aren't stimulants. Because I was put on Strattera for dissociative symptoms, and that's all it helped. It did not help my ADD whatsoever. But it did help with the dissociation. So I did get something out of it, but then it stopped working after like 2 or 3 years. But that happens to me in medications a lot, so I would not take my word on it that that's what would happen to you. Other symptoms of PTSD would be to avoid any type of anything, like situation or people or places or things that will remind you of the event that basically causes your brain so much stress that it either becomes dormant and then comes out later, which is kind of how mine worked out before it became complex PTSD. And then again, you avoid certain things, but then at the same time, you're not really doing that on purpose. I mean, yes, some people most definitely do that on purpose because they are aware that if they are around any of these stressors or triggers, that a flashback might occur. But some people don't even know that they're doing that. It just is kind of like in their brain, like, oh, maybe let's like avoid this like certain area of town or something because something bad happened there. We've had a lot of people, coming back from war that were put in the PTSD category, although they should, and I think now more that people know what complex PTSD is, that they're put in the category of complex PTSD. Complex PTSD is basically chronic traumas that continue or repeat for months or years at a time, or happen more than once. Like for me, first time I was raped, I was 15 years old, and I did not really realize that I had PTSD from that, just because I kind of swept it under the rug and was like, you know, oh, it was my fault, I was drunk, you know. You know, and of course it's not your fault, it's never your fault. And yeah, so I got like PTSD from that. And then after being raped 4 times, it kind of puts me in the category of complex PTSD. Another thing that puts me in that category is, God, let's see. Sorry, I'm looking at my phone right now. Let's see. There's also, if you're, let's see. Okay, so I'm just going to read this little blurb. It says, it notes that during long-term traumas, the victim is generally held in a state of captivity emotionally or physically. In these situations, the victim is under the control of the perpetrator and unable to flee. And examples of that are concentration camps, obviously, prisoners of war camps, obviously, prostitution brothels, long-term domestic violence, long-term severe physical abuse, child sexual abuse, and organized child, which I don't know what that is. Organized child exploitation ring. Sorry, I didn't go all the way. So another reason that I have complex PTSD is that I have been subjected to a lot of psychological and emotional trauma from my mom mostly, but sometimes my dad too, and that has to do with being at home, not because I want to be, and I'm basically kind of captive. I used to leave my house, like go on walks and stuff, and I've had my dad follow me, and several times he tackled me in public and pinned me down, and then my mom would come in the car and basically just rush me into the car while I'm screaming for my life, and none of the neighbors seemed to give a shit. So I basically am kind of captive. I'm not really allowed to do much, and it used to be a lot more of like psychological and emotional abuse, from, starting around age 21 and until, in the past like year or so, they've gotten a lot better, but that is actually a form of captivity, because you are so scared of your perpetrator that you are stuck, and you basically are scared all the time. Like, what if I leave and this happens again? Or what if I'm out to the bar and somebody puts something in my drink, and then like I come home and my parents drug test me, and then I am like, positive for something that I didn't even know what I took, and then, it's all very frightening to me to go against my parents. So, and then also, when I turned about 18, 19, I started getting flashbacks of former abuse as a child. I will not get into that, though, because those flashbacks are not substantiated, which basically means that there's no hardcore evidence that that happened. But I used to get so many flashbacks of that, like constantly for like a 2-3 year period, that I kind of feel like, why would my brain make those things up? And it's not like I'm one of those people who are like, oh my god, this happened to me, and this happened to me, and this happened to me, so like pay attention to me. You know, like I'm not, you know, like I have no problem airing my dirty laundry. I have no problem at all with any of that stuff, but I don't give that information up unless it is truly needed, because it's some pretty personal stuff. So for complex PTSD, which is what I have now, okay, let's see. Symptoms of complex PTSD. Let's see. Okay, so the first requirement for diagnosis is that the individual experienced a prolonged period from months to years of total control by another, which is what I was talking about with my mom and living here and being scared to leave the house. Or total control by another. Other criteria include alterations in emotional regulation, which basically means your emotions are all over the place. Alterations in consciousness, which includes forgetting the traumatic events, reliving the traumatic events, or having episodes in which one feels detached from one's mental process or body, which is dissociation. Changes in self-perception, about basically how you feel about yourself. Alterations in the perception of the perpetrator, which means, for example, attributing total power to the perpetrator or becoming preoccupied with the relationship of the perpetrator, including a preoccupation with revenge, which honestly I had for a while with my parents. And in those years, my parents would lock their door at night because they were scared that I would come in and hurt them. Yeah, never did. Always thought about it, but never did, because I'm not fucking stupid, and that would not be worth going to jail for. Yeah. Basically, a lot of the symptoms of complex PTSD really are also like in common with a lot of symptoms of borderline personality disorder, which is something I also have and also made a video about. And it also gets confused with one other thing. Let me see. What was it? It's here somewhere. I will find it. Okay, never mind. I won't find it. Anyway, so a lot of the same diagnoses for borderline are also for complex PTSD. And people are, like psychologists, are just starting to, again, this whole new kind of thing about complex PTSD, that a lot of times if you are diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, they'll go back in your file and they'll see, oh, wow, like there was like, you know, a pretty big series of events, a long-term trauma that would totally make sense as to why this person has all these borderline symptoms. So a lot of times people with borderline actually just have complex PTSD and they don't have borderline personality disorder at all. Which I'm not sure is correct in my case. I'm actually going to talk to my shrink about it, because borderline personality disorder is a very, very stigmatized mental illness. Very stigmatized, like more than like bipolar or schizophrenia or schizoaffective. Borderline personality seems to be the one that a lot of people like won't let you into their programs and stuff because you have that. Because when you have borderline, you're pretty much very unpredictable, and places don't want to have people that are really unpredictable. But anyway, yeah, that's PTSD and complex PTSD, and I hope you guys got something out of it. I might make another video right now too, so I don't know, but we'll see. But ciao.